He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence. He shall cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you shall take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by day, nor of the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor of the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Only with your eyes shall you look and see the reward of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord, who is my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. No evil shall befall you, nor shall any plague come near you, your dwelling. For He shall give His angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways. In their hands they shall bear you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone. You shall tread upon the lion and the cobra, the young lion and the serpent you shall trample underfoot. Because He has set His love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will set him on high, because he has known my name. He shall call upon me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. So all this stuff that they called us crazy about years ago is now all of it's coming true.
He said that there's instability everywhere. It's panning out today, certainly in the banking sector. For how long is anyone's guess?
I'm gonna probably pick up some more too, because I know it's happening and I feel it happening.
The reason I call it God's money is you can't fake it. You know, you can fake it with a fake ETF, like a gold ETF or a silver, which I don't touch because it smells as bad as the guys that printed that crap.
It's going to be crazy what's coming, and those that are prepared are just really going to be celebrating like they've never celebrated before.
And we want to welcome all of His Glory Nation, from east to west to north to south. Welcome to today's Take 5. Happy August the 1st. Amazing. July is gone, now we go into August. And welcome back.
Thanks for having us back. It's wonderful to be here.
Wow, Bo.
Absolutely. It's August. We're in summertime, so I'm expecting big things to happen financially.
Well, we've seen a lot of big things happen just the last 2 days. I mean, look at the Devon Archer. I was watching the news, and you can tell a tale of two different worlds. You got OAN talking about that. You got Newsmax talking about that. And Fox News is talking about a killer from 50 years ago. So,
Yep.
They don't want you to know the truth.
The mainstream's not really reporting too much about the BRICS nations and the de-dollarization that they're really going heavy on right now. You're not hearing it, but in 6 months, I'm sure everybody will hear about it.
Yeah, everything in our world is just, it's getting close. Every day is this much closer. But, you know, when the dollar loses its status as the world reserve currency, everything that they've done or everything built begins to crumble. So it's everything, this entire financial system is predicated on how they built it. And they built it with a money system out of thin air. Again, like we talked on our last podcast, you know, just please, anybody and everybody, when you talk about the financial system, you know, you go talk to the bankers, ask them, where does the money come from? Ask them for an honest answer. Where, if they created $1 trillion or 2 trillion, or if they basically have a debt ceiling of several trillion, where does the money come from? And the point is, it's from thin air. They created out of thin air. And so really, it's not money. It's a debt instrument. The only real money is God's money. Haggai 2, verse 8, the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. That's money.
Yep. And Andrew mentioned BRICS. BRICS is supposed to meet at the 3rd week of August, I believe that's when it is. That's significant. What are there, 41 nations now that want, at this meeting, could say we're going gold back.
Absolutely. It's I think it's like on the 21st or 22nd. But I also received another article from a legitimate source. It says 22 of the BRICS nation countries have now opened up special bank accounts to trade in the rupee. So it's like they're doing everything in their power, really, to just make the dollar just nothing, nothing almost overnight. And I think that Bo actually brought this to our attention first when he was talking about Operation Sandman,
Yeah.
where online many different countries or entities or even individuals all on the same day will short it's not necessarily the U.S. currency, but I think it's I believe it's bonds. Is that right, Bo?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pulling up Operation Sandman here. So basically, what I've got is Operation Sandman's from my slide deck. It's a worldwide attack, and technically it will be cause the death of the dollar. Now, when I say death of the dollar, it doesn't mean the dollar disappears, because it's the U.S. dollar is all around the world. But my belief, we're going to probably see overnight, maybe somewhere in the vicinity of a 30, maybe 1/3 haircut on the U.S. dollar. And you think, okay, that's not that, that's a big deal. But let me explain to you the magnitude of that. When you take what's called derivatives, so they take a paper contract and they can create derivatives from these paper contracts, and they can sell this contract 100 times, 200 times over. More than that, just for example, like if you go, you buy these derivative contracts for precious metals, and you go to the COMEX, you can buy, people are buying paper contracts of gold and silver, and they think, oh, I hold precious metals. Understand that when you take a derivative, you can sell that ounce of silver 500, they potentially, I believe it's in the 500 range. So they've sold that ounce of silver to 500 people. So in other words, if it was a home or a house, there's 500 people that think they own that home.
Wow.
You see, that's what you can do with derivatives. You can multiply whatever you want. So they use the derivative contract to multiply the US dollar. And so the dollar itself, when this thing goes, it's going to be a sudden event where the dollar basically implodes, and it's going to crash, and that's going to directly affect the bonds. And so, yeah, to answer your question, Andrew, the dollar in a dollar devaluation will directly cause interest rates to spike, because the only thing the government can do is print more money, which is then going to cause a massive interest rate spike, which is then going to cause what? The bonds to collapse. And so, what is a debt jubilee? We've talked about, thou shalt consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all of its inhabitants. Well, what did God do to Pharaoh to release Israel? He broke the chains. And so Israel then was freed from bondage. So the US dollar then ties in directly with the bonds. And so when you have a dollar crash, that leads to a interest rate spike, and then also going to cause the bond market to break or collapse. If the bond market collapses, that's a break of the bonds. No different than what happened with Israel and Egypt. Same exact things. This is going to be not an exodus, but a worldwide exodus, which then ultimately leads to basically a release from bondage, so freedom. And so Operation Sandman, the notes I have on it, this is from a few months ago, it's 142 countries worldwide repudiate the U.S. currency, the U.S. dollar, on the same day and refuse to accept it as payment. And so, where have we seen that, right? Because again, I can reference all these lines, right, that people might make, but is it scriptural, right? Is there somewhere in the Bible? And yes, the answer is Revelation 18, verses 8 through 11. It says, and the harlot plagues will come in a single day. The kings of the earth will weep and wail over her. So how did they build Babylon, right? They took it off the gold standard with Nixon in 71. At that time, again, we've talked about this, there was only about $500 million in circulation of US dollar, okay? Now we're in the quadrillions. Again, I'm going to repeat, 1,000 million is a billion, 1,000 billion is a trillion, 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion. And we're in the quadrillions. If you had to count to a trillion, it would take you 33,000 years just to count, seconds. Okay, so this is the kind of money we're talking about. And so they use this money, they create it out of thin air. Again, ask your banker, where does the money come from? There is no answer to it because it comes out of thin air. They create it out of thin air, and they've enslaved you. They make you think that it's money, but it's not. It's just a paper instrument. And that use that, and if you believe that it's money, and then they basically create, these 3-letter agencies that, you got to pay every year. And then how do they control everything? Well, they take the money and they use this money to buy and pay off everybody at the top of every three-letter agency. So everyone's bought and paid for. And so, again, how do they build Babylon? With the money. If God's going to intervene, he's going to destroy the money. What's going to happen? The break of the US dollar directly tied in potentially with the BRICS nations. I believe that date is the 22nd of August. Again, and my charts also are confirming something biblical potentially could happen here in the month of August. And then again, let's look at prophecy, right? Where can we find some of this, the reference in prophecy? Well, Kim Clement, what did he say about summer? And in the summer, I will prosper my people. What does prosper mean? Wealth transfer. So we're in August. All I'm saying is that everything is lined up for something to go off here. We've talked about how this is potentially the 45-day window takes us into August 9th. Does something happen then? God knows, not me. I'm just doing the math. And then all I know is that we've talked about Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah as we're heading into the last 2 weeks of September. We're in the 50-year Jubilee. If God's going to break the bonds to fulfill his word, not mine, to fulfill his word of Leviticus, thou shalt consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land. Liberty would mean a break of the bonds, break of the financial system. And so I'm just telling you, those who have listened to us, awesome. That's great. Those who haven't, unfortunately, something's about to happen here. And when this goes down, if you haven't prepared financially, it's going to be horrific. It's going to be a double-edged sword. It's going to be the greatest event that we can ever imagine, because what's written behind Pastor Dave is his glory is going to manifest on this earth. And it's going to be the most awesome thing we could ever imagine, because we haven't even seen something like this. Like, this is going to be incredible. We can't even comprehend what this means, but we're going to see the breakout of the mass revivals across the world. It's going to be just truly historic, but it's all going to be predicated on the collapse of the way they did it with the money. The money is the root, because they love it. They love it. It's the root of all evil. And so I'm just telling you, we're in summer.
Yeah, and to confirm what you just said, we're at a 22-year high in interest rates on mortgages and whatnot. That just happened last week. And then I got a little bit more news on that Henry Kissinger going to China. The main purpose of that meeting to go to China was an imminent collapse of the bond market. That's what the meeting was about.
Didn't we just talk about that?
Yep.
Wow. It's well, people have been listening, Bo. You mentioned that you hope that people are listening, and we've been doing these interviews a little bit more often than we usually do. And I've noticed an influx of people in the last week and a half that have been rolling over their retirement accounts. So to just touch on that briefly, people out there that feel that they may not have the funds necessary to invest into precious metals as a hedge against de-dollarization and us continuing as a country to print money out of thin air, you can roll over an existing precious metals or an existing IRA or 401k into a precious metals IRA, and it's only a couple $100s a year to maintain that. So really, people out there should consider doing this. If you haven't already, reach out to us, because our precious metals IRAs do hold physical gold and silver in a lockbox with your name on it. So as Bo mentioned earlier, this is not paper silver. It's not paper gold and silver. These are tangible assets that you could, in theory, take delivery of, which that would be a taxable event. But for people that set up a precious metals IRA, the loophole is that it's stored at a third-party location, and it is a non-taxable event. So people should reach out and learn more about that as soon as possible.
And we know the banks are starting to panic. You mentioned to me, Andrew, that you've some more crazy stories that are happening, and I've heard crazy stories. I think we mentioned this last time we were on, but it's even intensified since the last time, about people shutting down accounts. The bankers won't let them transfer money, closing their accounts over $250 in their account. It's just crazy.
Oh, yes. The situation that Pastor Dave is actually referring to, I'm looking at my phone here. This was just from last Wednesday. And the associate of mine that works for Beverly Hills Precious Metals that sent me the text, he has a client that wanted to send us a wire transfer for $124,820. This is a returning client, not a new client. And the bank just refused to send it. Just said, look, we refuse to send this wire transfer for precious metals. This is probably a scam, and there's nothing that you could do or say that will make us do it. And the frustrated client then said, well, how about we just do a cashier's check and I'll just overnight it to these guys. And they said, well, if you want to send a cashier's check, we would need to just close your accounts. So we'll close your accounts. You can take all the funds that you've deposited into the bank with us, and then you can do whatever you want with it. You can open an account somewhere else and write a check. And that's exactly what the clients did. They actually were kicked out of their bank and told to leave and withdraw all of their money because they wanted to invest in precious metals. And just one little add-on on that, this isn't like the 1950s or 1960s and 70s when the bankers actually meant something, when they really did have your back financially. They act like they care about you, but they don't. And the reason that I know that they don't is because I think that recently Chase just got in trouble for creating dummy accounts in the same way that Wells Fargo did a few years ago. And the reason that they do that is because how they're able to get help from the government and how they can keep their credit rating high is by having a certain number of accounts. So they have to meet a quota, and that's why they do that. So instead of offering some sort of good deal to the people, which would be to open new accounts, that would be having your back. They would just rather create accounts out of thin air and just hope that you haven't noticed that they've created accounts with your money for their benefit, not yours. So it's really, if there's any doubt that the banks don't have your back, just walk into one in, say, the early afternoon and try to get some help. There's a long line. They're understaffed. They know they're understaffed, but they're trying to make it so that you do everything online. No more person-to-person, face-to-face stuff. It's all, they want it to all be done online. Unless they can sell you something, then they'll gladly do a face-to-face meeting with you.
And that's the big ones. Our bank in Texas, I think, is different because it's local, and you walk through the bank, they greet you, the president of the bank's there. That's the way banking was supposed to be and always should be, that personal relationship in the community. And thank goodness it's still happening in some places in Texas, but it's not happening with the big six.
Every day when I walk into the bank, if I go there and deposit the checks that we receive for orders, so I'll go into the bank and they're always so excited to see me. They're like, hey, Andrew, hello. Like literally 5 hellos come from everywhere. And they give me a chance to skip the line. And I do get that velvet touch feeling that they offer. But it's backwards because I'm the one telling people to get their money out of the banks and I'm the one they're treating good. But the people they should be treating good are not me. It should be the people in the long line that are waiting to make deposits for to pay bills to be able to survive in this chaotic market.
Well, again, one thing you want to consider too, just think about what a bank is. A bank is a middleman. So there's 3 of us in this interview, right? So pretend I'm the bank, right? So if Andrew, you wanted to send a wire to Pastor Dave, you'd have to go through me, the banker, to send the wire over to Pastor Dave, right? Same thing. Pastor Dave, you wanted to send a wire to, or some money to Andrew, you'd have to, or you can cut a check. It'd have to go through me because I would have to clear the check, right? So the bank is a middleman, is an intermediary between 2 people. Now, to make it really simple, gold and silver are so totally different because you don't need me if you have gold or silver. Because Pastor Dave, if you're at lunch with Andrew, you can just give Pastor Dave can give Andrew a gold coin or a piece of silver, and you've done your transaction. You pay for whatever you want to transact. See, so evil is always stuck in the middle, always in the middle, and that's where the control factors are. And so what's about to happen is when they've created so much money, the amount of digits. It's not a creation of money, it's the adding digits. They've added so many digits to the financial system that we live in, we're in the quadrillions now, that it's an impossibility to fulfill that in terms of paper. So the prophetic word of David Wilkerson, I think of like 50 years ago, I think in the 70s, right? It says, that we're going to see, this is going to be bank runs. We're going to see bank runs. So we're going to see whether it's tomorrow, next week, next month, but sometime this year, we're going to see bank runs. And again, because why? Because all it takes is, a bank might have, 1,000 clients, maybe 10,000 clients, who knows? But they only have a certain amount of paper. So after the first 3, 4, 5, 10 clients leave the bank with the paper, there's no more paper in the bank. All they have is digits in the bank. Now, the problem is you can't take your digits home with you. And so that's called bank runs. And so people are not going to line up and they're going to be freaking out because basically they know they have money in the bank. They know the financial system has just had a massive hiccup. There's a big problem in the financial system. The dollar just lost the status of the world reserve currency. And people are like, I just want to get my money out of the bank because I don't trust the banks because they did all this.
Yep.
But the bank's not going to give you the money. And so you're basically going to be stuck with not having the finances that you thought you had. So there's going to be a lot of people who in the banking system right now have a lot of digits. So there might be people that are, millionaires, billionaires, right? But potentially, the prophetic word is there are these people who are the millionaires and the billionaires are going to be in food lines. Because if the banks close, they won't have access to their money. The credit card system won't work. Nothing's going to work. And so, again, this will be the fall of the United States. So I'm not saying this is going to be really, easy. But again, if you've transferred your wealth into precious metals, into real money, God's money, Haggai 2, verse 8, then no matter what happens, the systems, the lights are going to come back on. Like Lazarus, he died, right? But then what happened? Jesus Christ came and said, "Rise, Lazarus," and he rose on the fourth day, and all glory began again. You see, Jesus Christ died on the cross, but then 3 days later, he rose from the dead. You see, so there's going to be a moment in time where it's going to get really scary. The United States is going to die. It's going to look really ugly. And during that time window, if you've prepared financially, you've got some food and got some water in the home, there really is nothing to worry about because we know in the back end, God's got this. Like there's nothing to fear, right? So all you got to do is wait it out. And then when you've done waiting it out, we know that on the back end, God's a provider, right? So there's no bad side to this. And then we're going to have a rebuilding. So it's like that baptisms that you're talking about, Pastor Dave, right? It's the death of one to the rebirth. So United States as we know it, the 1776, rah, rah, one nation under God, all men are created equal. Forget about it, okay? Gone, okay? Fully captured, fully controlled by a satanic money system that controls everything in our world right now, period, okay? And so that system must die. And in a new United States under God with a correctly appointed president is going to rebuild a financial system with real money, gold and silver. And thus, we are all going to watch the rebirth of a financial system backed by God's money, gold and silver. It's going to happen. It is going to happen. And when that moment in time happens, oh my gosh, the prices that we're going to see on these precious metals is going to be astronomical.
I know President Trump loves gold too.
Yes, he does.
Yep. In many ways. And you just have to ask yourself, are you seeing death signs around America today? I mean, if you don't think America is on life support, oh my goodness.
Look at the presidency, Pastor Dave.
Exactly.
Like, seriously, like they just, they give Mr. Hunter the sweetheart deal only to literally watch it blow up in his face on last Friday.
Yep.
How awesome. How incredible. They put up the paperwork and they hid paragraph 15 only to find out the last minute, the judge says, "Hey, can I see that the complete?" And then she reads the details and finds paragraph 15 that basically that they were trying to hide. And so when she saw that, she just forget about it. And look at the whole thing crumbled. You see, no matter what they do now, because we're in that, remember, if you remember from our last interview, like I said, and this has been 100% accurate, from June 25, when they pinned that text, the text that labeled, that attached Hunter to his father, what does the text say? "I'm sitting here with my father,"
Yep.
right? I said, that will mark the collapse of everything they're doing. And because the timeline, that was 1,260 days, ended on June 25. And we're in the 45-day window right now, between now all the way into the 9th of August. So what happens the 9th of August? I don't know. But I'm telling you, then that leads us into September. So look at everything they're working on right now is falling apart.
It is. Look at the bombshell information that came out of Devin Archer's closed session yesterday, proving that Joe, as vice president, was on speakerphone to at least 20 different times. Now the narrative is switched from, well, we didn't say he didn't know those people, but he didn't have any business dealings directly with them. They're moving the goalpost. This is unprecedented.
For this 45-day window, everything is just exploding on them. It's just nothing's working. Everything they try, it's not working. And we're just seeing things fall apart. And again, let's look at prophecy. Summer will be the mediator. That means the turning point between spring, which just ended, and fall, so that the fall can do its work in America. So if we get this financial event that Kim Clement prophesies, and in the summer, I will prosper my people, that will mark the control mechanism break. So when they lose the dollar begins to crumble, everything from that point on, literally just, truths are going to get exposed left, right, and center. This is going to be a year, I'm telling you, by the time we get to December, forget about it, because this is supposed to be the fall. And what was the Galatians say about, what is it, the harvest, right? What a man soweth, thus shall he reap.
Right.
So that's expected to be this will be the first harvest.
Yeah, I was told some of the things that were supposed to happen in July got pushed back a little bit into August, and that was a good thing. It could have been really bad, but
It was still from June 25 all the way to August 9th. So I'm just like, look at all the news coming out. Like, look at the Devon Archer stuff yesterday. I'm just watching because there's nothing else to do. Just pray and watch. And because we're on the correct side of this, that's all I'm telling you. We are on the correct side of this. God, a few years ago told me, I use you to educate and show my people so they know what's coming and they can be prepared financially, because it's coming. You can't stop it.
it's coming. It's just a matter of how severe it's going to be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's coming. What would you both say to the average person watching this about, you mentioned food, water, and some sort of cash? Because even if you don't get into silver and gold, you want to have physical cash on hand for this event to happen, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. What would you both recommend?
Well, for me, I would start off by saying that it's not that we want the dollar to crash. It's not that we're rooting for this to happen. It's just for a long time we have known that the dollar is not backed by anything real. We know that the dollar was stronger when it was backed by gold, and we just want to see it get back to that. So we're in a monetary revolution, so to speak. So as far as answering your question directly as to how to prepare, for me, I always keep a lot of water here, a lot of food that could last for a long time. I've had people come over to my house before COVID and see like 20 of those cases that you can get at Costco or Sam Club of water. And they go, well, why do you have all that water? And they just said, well, like there could be an emergency and I don't want to have to be scrambling to get it. You go, well, what kind of emergency could there possibly be? I go, well, we're in California. It can be an earthquake, can be fires. Who knows? Could be a flood. It might be some sort of a plague. I have no idea. And then COVID comes, which we realize is probably not entirely real, but it showed what could happen because everybody went and emptied out all of their local grocery stores. So you'll need something to barter with, because people that are similar minded to us, some of them might want to sell to their neighbors. For me, I wanted to make sure I had enough for us and our neighbors and our friends, but other people might choose to sell it. You'll need something to barter with because the banks might be closed, which leads to another answer to your question. People do need cash. We keep telling people that they need to invest in gold and silver, that's a hedge against inflation, and that it's God's money and it's the world's true currency and always has been. All of that is true. But as long as we're recognizing that your local currency here in the US, the dollar, has value, that's for the time being what you need to go out and make purchases for everyday things. So I've had people reach out through the website submission saying, oh, I'm on Social Security, or I'm a single mom, or I had this happen and it cost me basically everything that I'd worked for, and I've just got like $1,000. And what silver do you recommend for $1,000 for someone like me? And I just tell them, I go, look, as much as I'd like to help you acquire precious metals, please don't invest in any. Take that cash, set it aside for emergency, for when you really need it. And I would prefer to not get that person to convert $1,000 that they have available, where that's all that they have, into precious metals. I think it works better for people that are working with a little bit more. So it does come up a lot. So I do think you need cash, gold and silver, food and water. And
even a case scenario, even if something didn't happen, you never know when a natural disaster will come through. I remember we were talking about this in Texas a year and a half ago, and people who bought extra water and food and generators, they didn't skip a beat when that world record storm came through the Dallas area.
I'll add to this as well too. So even if the dollar loses the status of the world reserve currency, so on a national basis or a global basis, right, people are going to be stuck maybe overseas. They may not be able to buy tickets because that country may not want to accept the dollar as payment. So they'll be having issues getting home. So that's one issue with relation to the dollar crash. But locally, it's still, people in the United States, example, that live here, know the dollar is payment, right? So even if the dollar loses the status of the world reserve currency, the banks shut down for a period of time, and maybe I believe we're going to have some earthquakes and things going off in the world. understand that, people, because they've used the currency for so long, they're still going to be accepting it as payment. Okay. So having the paper stuff in your hands is actually a great idea, because for a period of time, if the system is down, the ETF system's been down, you really can't go to the bank, to the grocery store and use your credit card to pay for your groceries, because the system's just down. I'm telling you that it's going to go down. This is something's about to happen. Again, no one really knows how this is going to play out. Again, because it's a secret, not mine, God's. Okay, God's not going to reveal how he's going to what the final checkmate is. He's not going to reveal how he's going to do this, because Satan's never going to have a counter to what's about to go down. So God's got this. He's gonna take care of it. But during that time window, like you're saying, if you have some extra food and water, then there is no stress. You don't even need to go to the grocery store, because you got everything you need. If your neighbor needs some, well, you maybe got some extra, share with him as well too. But again, we're not going Mad Max. Okay, so don't be concerned that we're going to be going to a scenario where this world's just going to go crazy and people, there's just going to be rioting and things in the streets, but for a period of time. But this is not that Mad Max scenario where it's just, you watch these crazy movies of
Right.
what Mad Max really is. Okay, there's going to be a window of time. You can the revelation I received a couple of years ago was comparable to what happened to Lazarus and his death. Right, he died, and then it was ugly. People were scared. Martha and everyone were crying. Right, it was a horrible time. So it was very sad. But then, Jesus intentionally waited even the extra day, right? So the world could see his glory. That's the point of the Lazarus story, right? So the world might see the glory of God. And where has the world seen the glory of God? Well, we're at Lazarus' moment. Where else? Red Sea miracle. Okay.
Yep.
That was a miracle that no one knew was coming, but God knew, right? He had it all planned out. So evil, just like Pharaoh walked right into the Red Sea. Okay. These evil people are walking right into God's plan. So as ugly as it all looks, it's not important to watch, because it's all, God knows what they're doing and what they're going to do and how they're going to actually literally walk into his plan. So there's something that's about to happen that evil's walking right, or has already, they're like probably 95% of the way in right now. God just hasn't closed the Red Sea on their heads just yet. But that's how close this whole thing is right now. So we're at that moment in time where, at Daniel 2 verse 34, and while you were watching, a stone carved out by no human hand, that's the glory, manifests. A stone carved out by no human hand comes in and destroys Babylon, and then and the new kingdom will last forever. And so we're heading in a moment in time which is going to be truly historic. And this moment in time biblically is also the third seal of Revelation. It's a black horse, and the rider has scales in his hands. It's financial scales. Where do we see that biblically? Mene tekel Sorchini, when the writing on the wall in King Belshazzar, and he died that night within 24 hours. So this is all coming down to a moment in time where you want to be prepared, and not a point to be freaking out, because after the glory manifests, we're heading into, when the glory's on earth, we got revivals across the earth. We got blessings financially like you ever can not even imagine what's coming financially. And the blessing be so big that it's going to be offshooting to all the people who prepared financially. So you'll be blessing all of those around you. So to have fear of there's something ugly coming, oh, no. It's when the glory's on the earth, it's going to be the greatest next 3.5 years you can ever imagine.
Absolutely.
And we can't even imagine, because we've never seen what's about to happen. This is going to be one of the greatest moves of God's spirits ever in the history of the world. But on the other side of it, right? Why don't you go read the story of Haman and see how that turned out for him, right? Why? Because he plotted against God's people, and Haman wanted them all dead. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Does that sound familiar? Look what Haman wanted to do. He wanted to kill the entire Jewish nation. Does it sound familiar of what's going on in our world right now? Okay, this is Ecclesiastes. That which has been will be again. The present day Hamans, the present day pharaohs of this world are about to experience the hand of God. So as glorious as it might be these next 3.5 years, it's going to be the worst 3.5 years that these people could ever imagine, because they are about to find out they came against the creator of the universe, God the Father.
Well, Judy Green has had a prophecy, and other prophetic voices have a similar prophecy, that it will be a lock in, not a lock out. We'll be locked in from God's protection. And when that event happens, and I have the feeling too, when that event happens, I'm going to be singing praises, because when we come out of that, it's glory days, not anything to be fearful. And I like the point that you both talked about, having your food, not even worry about going to the grocery store. If you got enough for a week or 2 weeks, just Lock in, be prepared, and get in the Word, and maybe get an extra board game or two to play Scrabble. I know we did here, so I'm gonna have to take it with to Texas with me if I leave before then. But give him the praise when it goes dark.
The prophetic word was this, when you see this happen, get on your knees and thank God for saving America. And people are going to say, why just America? Well, because you'll notice that when America fell, when 46 came in and 45 was removed, right? America fell hard. Look what's happened in the past 3.5 years. Okay, they just in his last year, when Trump was in his last year, they brought in COVID. Okay, and that was an agenda that was planned. They had it all planned, and then once they got him out of there, man, I think he just barely became president, and then within a few minutes, they had him signing pieces of paper that he doesn't even know what he was signing, right? They're trying to undo as much as possible. So the United States, again, the United States we live in, the one you like, the one nation under God. I'm telling you, it's completely corrupt, controlled right now because of the money system, because of what they did with the money. And so everyone's bought and paid for. Look, you don't believe me? Look what's going on in schools. Do you think that's you just go on YouTube? They have parents going to school board meetings, reading pornography books because this is what's in the library. Are you kidding me? Then you got these woke doctors. Little boy walks up to his mom. He says, "Hey, I think I'm a girl." And the guys, little boys, maybe 3, 4, 5 years old. And so, as the parents take him to the doctor to cut the parts off? Like, this is the world that if you don't think this is demonic, satanic stuff going on in our world, go watch the news for 5 minutes. There's nothing normal right now. Okay, but again, it's completely normal if it's satanic, right? Because that which is good becomes bad, and that which is bad becomes good. Why? Because evil hates the creator and his creation, period. So Georgia Guidestones, They want 500 million people, which means there's 8 billion, means if there's 20 people in the room, 19 are dead. This is the world we live in. These people, they create money out of thin air. They want everybody dead. They want to enslave everybody, whoever's left, and they really don't care about you one bit. They want to destroy the United States. They're letting in everybody that they possibly can. Why? Because they want a one world system. So they don't care who comes into the country. Why would they care? They want a one world system, right? And but the point of a country is the president's job is to maintain the borders, right? But these systems, they want to let everybody in, and they want a one world system. And we talked about before with Andrew. They want to bring the central bank digital currency on, right? And why? Because they've made so much digits that they can't, the dollar system, the paper system, can no longer allocate, not even close. You have to cut down every single tree in the world to allocate for the amount of digits that have been created. So they have to go to central bank digital currency. And also with that, they can also try to bring in what they're doing in China, which was social credit scores, right? Yep. And so all of this is their plan. They've revealed, this is the point, they've revealed it to you. They've revealed their plans to you. They've shown who they are. And this is where God's going to intervene and destroy their plans. But again, we're not stopping Revelation. So in the future, evil rises again. Why? Because it's written. It's written. But we're not anywhere near the tribulation that's written in the Bible. That's still years out. So we got some awesome times ahead of us because our God's a provider, right? He's going to make a way. He's a way maker. So we're not going to be here stuck in a Mad Max world. No, because God's got a bigger plan. He knows how he's already planned it all out for us. So we got some incredibly awesome times that are coming, and they're really soon. They're like, we're in this 45-day window, which leads us into August. We're already August 1 today, yep. But somewhere in August, we might see this wealth transfer begin. You take down that dollar, and you're going to see every wall start to crumble, because the bribes and payoffs will no longer work. People are going to say, hey, I'll be quiet if you pay me with gold. I'll be quiet if you pay me with silver, but I'm not staying quiet if you pay me with that paper over there that really doesn't have much value. And so again, back to Exodus versus the Great Exodus. Exodus was an area of the world that was Pharaoh and Israel. We are now global systems. This is going to be a worldwide exodus, the collapse of the bond markets. When the bond markets collapse, expect the interest rates to spike double digit, maybe 10, 12, 15% are going to be overnight interest rate spike that you can't even imagine when the bond market breaks. And then that's going to lead to a 50 to 90% real estate collapse globally.
Wow.
globally into potentially next summer. Again, why? Because real estate's only priced in how much people can pay per month. That's not because it's based on mortgages, right? And so what's mortgage, mortuary, a death grip? See, so student loans, mortgages, what is a debt jubilee? It means release from bondage. Bonds are going to break, which ties in with student loans, credit cards. Bottom line is the financial system, is about to change forever.
Right.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.
Bottom line is the financial system, is about to change forever.
Right. And we're on the cusp of that. So, Andrew, what kind of talking points would you tell people what actions would they take with knowing what's coming?
Well, I would reach out to us as soon as possible. Just go to bh-pm.com. And once the homepage comes up, you'll see the form that you can fill out. Put in your first name, last name, email address, phone number. Put in a couple notes down on the bottom. The one we're seeing a lot right now, I would like to learn how to roll over my existing IRA or 401k into a precious metals IRA. If you just reach out with that, I'll get you with an associate that can explain it to you in very simple terms and show you how to get started. This isn't a high pressure deal, so I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to us if the timing's not right. We can definitely give you time to take a step back and pray about it. Take your time and come back to us when you're ready. But this is something that you should reach out and at least learn how it works, because right now the precious metals are available. The premiums are super, super low. So if you wait to do this when everybody else is doing it, it's gonna cost you more. The spot price of gold and silver will be higher, and it's gonna take longer for us to fulfill your orders. So the timing is very good right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: we're in a transition window. The world we know is turning. This is a very critical time point. No one knows exact day or hour this is going to go down, but let me tell you this: your bank account, your home value, or just things that you think are have value. For example, like your price of your home. You have 401ks or IRAs. You look at it, it has whatever digits whatever value there is. Understand that those digits that you're looking at are based on a fraud. They're based on thin air. So if you had an IRA that's worth 10,000, you have an IRA that's worth 5,000, you have an IRA that's worth 10 million, okay? All those digits are nothing but based on a fraud. Digits were created out of thin air. And so you own something, or you believe you do, but they're just digits, and they're basically nothing but thin air. Now, can you buy stuff with them right now? Yeah. But when this world flips and everything changes, if you don't have any gold and silver, you don't understand finance. The money system that we use today, there's never been a money system, a paper money system that's lasted more than 50 to 100 years. I think we're over a little bit over 100 years because we have of the computers that we have right now. But the only thing that's lasted, in this case, 5,000 years is gold and silver. So if you have no precious metals and you only have digits that you think, you have, all you really have is a fraud, a money system created out of thin air. It really has no value. And when this financial system goes down, all the banks can do is print more money. And so we might see the Dow spike to 100,000 on the Dow, a big deal, because the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency. So it doesn't matter what the paper system is worth anymore, because you're going to be saying, my goodness, again, I don't want to give anybody financial advice. I'm just telling you how the system works. And if you don't believe me, go to the bank and ask the banker, hey, in the 70s, there was the prices were, a home was $30,000 and now my home's worth, hey, wow, my home's worth $1 million today. But in the 70s, it was worth only 30,000. So ask them where the money came from to allow that home to be worth $1 million today. Where did it come from? There is no answer, because it's from thin air.
Yep.
Period. So if what we're saying today makes sense, fantastic. Maybe you've listened. I'm just thinking, I don't want to give anybody financial advice. I want people to make their own personal decisions by praying on us. And if this interview, resonates with your heart because it makes sense, then maybe you should have some precious metals. I do know that I personally bought from Andrew, and he's delivered like lightning fast. And that's what I love about, Andrew. He comes like a few days. I send him a wire and it shows up like a few days later. So, I'm not sure if I get a VIP service, but I know I've heard from other people how great Andrew delivers to other people as well, too. So I'm just saying there's not a lot of time left. If you've ever not had precious metals, ever thought about buying precious metals, buy from someone who you know that you're going to deliver to you, because the moment that wire leaves your account and to the moment that precious metal arrives at your front door or wherever you're receiving it, you're like nervous because the money's gone and you don't have anything. And so you better have sent it to someone who's going to deliver to you. But otherwise, God bless everybody. God's got this. He's in complete control. And that's how I want to end this.
Andrew, I got mine yesterday. So the delivery was spot on. So great job. All right, that wraps up today's Take 5. God bless you and go in his shalom.